Breaking news, y'all. Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys all had a chance to look at my previous video that talks about the breakdown of tools and what they mean, how you use them. And it's gonna be a great segue into this video, which is gonna be about color correcting. If you have been wondering like why your foundation or your makeup isn't looking as good as you would like what's missing, and you feel like my full coverage foundation should be covering this, color correcting may be something you would want to consider. I greatly recommend that you add color correcting to your routine. And if you are a beginner and color correcting is something you have never heard of before, then stay tuned because we're gonna dive right into what it is, why it's important, and how you can achieve something like this on your skin, even if we have a little bit of minor issues underneath. So stay tuned and keep on watching. Okay, so the first thing we want to talk about, color correcting. What even is it? So color correction is literally what it says. It's using color to correct other color. This is pretty much the concept of using colors in the color wheel to neutralize each other and bring balance. Basically, it's like using math with visible light instead of number. The world that we see around us, all the visible light that we see is made up of 3 colors, and they're called the primary colors. So those primary colors include red, yellow, and blue. And basically with color correction, you're using those 3 colors and you're analyzing what you see in order to neutralize the area. So that's pretty much what color correction really is. And so we're gonna dabble into why you would use it in makeup. All of us have these beautiful canvases and we're looking to use makeup in order to polish those canvases, make them look as great as they can, emphasize our features, all that good stuff. And with color correction, what it does and how it helps is go and like fill in those holes before you put in your foundation. We're gonna talk about why that's important in makeup and why it can help to elevate the way that your complexion looks. This can be done before foundation, which is the most common way to do it, or it could be done after foundation. So like say you put on your foundation, you still see some discoloration coming through. That's when you can go in with color correction and kind of neutralize those areas before you go in and like set and put on all your blush and bronzer and things like that. So we're gonna talk about the 4 common forms of discoloration. We have darkness, which is probably the most common form. This is something that all skin tones can have as a concern, from fair to even the deepest of skin. And this has to do with darkness or shadows on the skin. So that can be like someone having, you know, dark hollows under eye, like darkness around the mouth, melasma, hyperpigmentation, acne scarring. All that is a form of darkness or shadow, and that is a form of discoloration that can be corrected. The correctors that you would use with darkness and shadow would be pink, apricot, peach, salmon, orange, red. Variations of those warmer colors are gonna help to bring those deeper colors that are really hints of blue and purple in the skin. They're gonna neutralize it and help either bring things forward, brighten things up, neutralize that area. The next one we would discuss is sallowness. So sallowness can happen a lot in like fair to medium tan skin, and sallowness has to do with like if you're someone especially of a golden or warmer undertone. Sometimes in fair skin you actually won't have darkness around like the eyes or the mouth. Sometimes you actually have more yellow tones around the eyes or the mouth. And what can help to brighten that up or neutralize it would be lavender. So it's almost the opposite of having darkness in the skin. It's almost too much golden undertone in the skin. So a brighter lavender will help to minimize that, sometimes even pink too, and brighten you up. The next one we want to talk about is dullness. So dullness has to do with if you actually have those like pink, purple, lavender tones in the skin and they're making you look dull. Even sometimes some red sometimes will make you look dull. So if you think about like if you put on a foundation and it's either too light or the undertone is too pink and it makes you look like dull and like kind of ashy. And so yellow can brighten that up again and make it look more balanced. We have dullness in the skin. So that's why you see like most people in the middle of their faces, they tend to use more yellow tones because yellow tones brighten the skin. If you're not using necessarily like a yellow, you can use like a peach neutral tone. That also counts as something that would correct dullness. Lastly, we're gonna talk about redness. So redness is something that affects more like fair to medium skin, and that can be corrected with green or olive correctors. What I'm gonna do is actually cut to me doing a demo of how I was able to complete this look, but more so how I was able to complete the coverage that I have. And you're gonna see me demo color correction on one side versus no correction and just foundation on the other, and how that differs, what type of coverage I'm getting, that kind of thing, what you see through the foundation. So you'll be able to see all that and thus further explain to you why color correction is so important and why you need to add that to your routine. So stay tuned. Okay, so now we're gonna get into demonstration of color correcting and how that would play out on my skin personally. My discoloration has to do more with like hyperpigmentation and darkness. As you can see, I have shadows around like my eyes, in my mouth, which is typical for people of color. Typically, if you are melanin rich or have any melanin in your skin, you're going to have some type of pigmentation around the mouth or the eyes. We're going to go into basically neutralizing those areas so that when I put my foundation on, it's going to look more even. You won't see so much of that discoloration peeking through. And that's what those colors that I mentioned earlier, the peach, the orange, the red, the pinks, that's what those colors will do for you. So we're gonna start with that on one side of my face. All right, so I got all my stuff here. First thing we're gonna talk about is placement. Placement is really important. Placement has a lot to do with the makeup still looking even in like your skin without the actual tone of the corrector peeking through or making your whole face look like it's the color of the corrector, which we don't want. So I hope you guys watched my last video because it's definitely a prerequisite to this video in terms of tools and what you need in order to accomplish certain looks and just a basic routine. Color correction will very much be a part of that routine. So your tools are really important when it comes to placement. So I have two here. I have like a small like buffing brush here, and then I also have like a flat concealer brush here. So these smaller brushes I feel are better for color correction. They help you to concentrate color right where you need it, on the spot or on the area, without you getting it all over the place and causing your whole face to look the color of the correction. So we're gonna use these two today. Richness of the discoloration needs to be equal to the richness of your corrector. So I have 3 of the 4 shades that I mentioned for darkness earlier. So we have a red here, which would be like a straight up red. It's the richest that you can go for a corrector. This is something that can be diluted down, or depending on the richness of the discoloration or the richness of the person's skin, you can go this deep with a corrector like this. Next, we have LA Girl Pro Conceal. This is a really good affordable corrector. This one is a straight up orange. This one is great for like my skin tone. Take the tops off for sanitary purposes. So I like to use that one most of the time. And then this one is almost like a dark peach or like a dark melon. This one is actually from Sephora. They classify this as orange. I think of this as more of like a dark, like a salmon, like a rich salmon. So this one I like to use when I'm correcting areas that don't have like a lot of pigmentation. Like some of my hyperpigmentation is faded versus like some of my scars that are newer. And because of that, they don't need the richness of maybe these on those areas. So on days where my skin is doing a whole lot better, I'll use something like this, or on no makeup days where I don't want to have to cover a whole lot of this corrector because it's so much richer. I'll use something like this to kind of mildly neutralize without it being like full coverage neutralization, if that makes sense. Disregard, I'm looking at my mirror over here so I can see where I'm placing things, but I'll be doing this side for correction. All right, so we're gonna go in with that lighter color first, just so you can see where I would use this and how much it actually does correct without it being too dark. This one does come with a wand, so if you own something like this at home, you can just go straight in with this. I do like to wipe a little bit off just because it's a lot on there, and remember, less is more. A lot of people, and you may have seen it on Instagram, on YouTube, will go full throttle in with color correctors, and now not only did you have to worry about the discoloration being covered, now you have to really cover that bright or deep orange that you just put on your face. And I feel like sometimes that can be counterproductive, especially if you're going for a milder like makeup look, like something that's like a no makeup look where you just want some polishing going on. That can be a lot. Typically, if I do something like a really harsh like spot corrector, it's because I'm gonna be doing like a full glam look, and I know that my full coverage, you know, concealers or my full coverage foundations are gonna cover everything anyway, but that tone will be neutralized underneath. So just keep that in mind. I'm gonna go in with this wand here. I see that I do have like a little bit of pigmentation still left on my forehead. Nowhere near as dark as my other ones like around here. So I'm gonna put that there. I'm also going to take it like along these like lighter areas here because they don't need as much of pigment. So they get a lighter corrector in that area. And I really like these types of correctors because they pretty much look like your skin once they're blended out, which is really what you want. You don't want your corrector to just look like straight up orange on your skin. So I'm going to kind of take this flat brush and kind of pat that in, really distribute that in that area. Okay, so this doesn't have to be perfect, but this is pretty much the effect you would get if you were to use a corrector that's like closer to like your skin tone, but still a different color. So this corrector is actually closest to my skin tone, but it is a orange undertone. So this works best as a corrector for like if you don't want to do too much coverage on top. Like if I was doing like a tinted moisturizer on top, the tinted moisturizer has just enough coverage to cover this mildly orange hue across the skin versus something that's like more deeply orange or red. So now that we got that in the milder areas, I'm gonna show you what the orange now looks like. So the orange, like I mentioned before, is what I use typically every day because, I mean, it's very weird to kind of break out like 3 different correctors for the same thing. So I'm gonna take a little bit of orange on the back of my hand here. I like to take my brush into a little bit of that on the side here. And those deeper places of hyperpigmentation, that's where I'm gonna concentrate this orange, around my eyes and also around my mouth. So I'm gonna start here first since this is where I need the most concentration of pigment. And I'm gonna dab that over that area. These are better underneath foundation in my opinion because they're thinner. I like thinner, kind of like creamy liquids like this versus a super thick cream because you can build that pigment to where you need it, but the actual feeling of the formulation won't feel heavier than the makeup you're gonna put on. I'm going to take like a little from that like residue and I'm gonna concentrate it right in this like hollow that you see here under my eye. This hollow is what's going to pretty much make my darkness under my eye look even more apparent. And so concentrating it in that hollow is going to bring it forward, if that makes sense. Because we're neutralizing the depth of the color, we're also neutralizing the depth of what it looks like for texture too, if that makes sense. So because color is just another form of light, when you neutralize color or depth to something, it brings it forward. So it makes it look less hollow. So what I'm doing is I'm concentrating that on the places where I have that depth to bring it forward. And I'm taking the residue and kind of like neutralizing my eyelid. So even as of now, you see that the difference between the hollow here and the hollow here, especially once I put foundation on, you really see it. This is gonna look a lot more forward, which is gonna make my eye almost look a little bit more like smaller because I won't have so much shadow and depth like I do on this side. It's the same kind of concept as if you were to wanna make your eyes look bigger, you would add that shadow and depth with a darker color, right? So this is the opposite. I'm using something that is the other two of the primary colors that we mentioned earlier to neutralize that blue or purple tone in the skin to bring it forward. And darkness or shadow around the mouth is completely normal. I know a lot of ladies tend to worry about that, and it can sometimes look like you have hair there, or mustache, or even emphasize hair that you already have there and make it look darker. This is something I learned from a lot of drag queens. They have, you know, facial hair, and what they do is they use orange to kind of neutralize the 5 o'clock shadow that would otherwise show through their makeup. Even though they're wearing like full faces of makeup, that correction around the mouth is very crucial, so that when you put on lipstick, like you don't have like this shadow around like your bright lipstick. You don't want there to be like a contrast of shadow when you have like a hot pink or a perfect red lip on. You want it to be as neutral as possible. So that's pretty much what this does. When I put on my foundation, you'll see that it may be like a hue showing through on this side, but it'll look a lot more like even tone and one color on this side. So now we're gonna go into what I call a little trick. This is like a precautionary tip that will help application of your foundation later, and that is setting your corrector. So setting your corrector is definitely a step that is optional, but I find that it really helps to make sure that I have that veil over my correction so that when I go in and apply my foundation on top, it doesn't like pick up or swirl in or move around and like not cover what I've already done with placement. So I have a powder here that is about the same as my skin tone. This is the Laura Mercier in the medium deep. This is a setting powder. It doesn't have too much pigment because it is a sheer setting powder. It's not a foundation powder. So what this is gonna do is this is going to not only minimize some oil on the skin, it's going to create that veil that I was talking about earlier. This is my powder sponge that I like to use for setting my correction and my primer. So I like to take it on that flat side that you saw, and I take a little bit on my sponge. You should barely like see it. It shouldn't be like super coated in the powder, but you should like barely see it there. And I like to take that and I like to stamp that right over those areas where I corrected. And I also like to stamp it over my nose because it kind of subdues some oil there. So I'm gonna like kind of set all of my oily T-zone that I normally would. I'm gonna set the side as well, even though I don't have product there, because I would still use powder before foundation because it's just another barrier for oil. Okay, so now take a look at my face and the side that's corrected versus the non-corrected side. Because I corrected, especially the areas that only had that mild orange, it almost looks like I have on foundation. Do you guys see that? Do you guys see that? That mild orange correcting those like lighter areas, and then that light sheer brown going over those areas already made it look like I have way more coverage. Like this already looks like I had on like a tinted moisturizer or something. This is why color correction is important, because I've already neutralized those areas. Even the sheerest of powders or the sheerest of tinted moisturizers that you're putting on top, it's gonna make it look like you have so much more coverage going on because those areas were neutralized before you even put anything on. So consider that if you're someone that uses like full coverage foundations and you're like, I don't understand, I'm still seeing marks and shadow through my foundation, I don't get why I'm seeing this, it's probably because you need to color correct. And this already looks like I had on foundation. Outside of these richer areas where the color corrector is, like this orange here, here, and here, the places where I put the milder one, like my forehead is completely covered. I put on color corrector and powder. And it's already gone. So this is the magic of color correction. This is why it's so important. This is why makeup artists do it. This may be the only thing that's literally separating what you do at home from what you see a makeup artist do, is that they're using light to balance the skin, and that's all this really is. So now I'm gonna take my foundation, and I'm gonna start with this side actually first before I go in with this side. This is the Mented foundation stick in the color M10. And this is like a medium coverage foundation stick. So I'm actually gonna just drag it on this side. All right, so this is the foundation on one side of my face, no color correction. So take a look at that. So that's what it looks like on this side. I have that going on. This is what it looks like around my mouth. This is what it looks like around my eyes. Now we're gonna take that same foundation stick, and I'm not gonna drag this on this side because remember, we have our color correction down and we also have the powder down. What I'm going to do is actually wipe some on my makeup sponge. And what I'm gonna do is start to dab that onto the skin. Okay, so I want you guys to take a look at my skin. And I want you guys to take a look at the immediate differences. What I'm seeing when I look in this mirror is that this side looks like I have way more coverage than this side, even though I put about the same amount on both sides, and also the areas that are peeking through as far as correction. So I'm already noticing in this camera that this side kind of looks a little dull to me. My eye is not completely covered, even though I put the same like one swipe on this side that I did on this side, especially under my eyes too, like right in here, it looks very dark. Still, there's a lot of shadow. Also, there is a little bit of shadow on my mouth. Not too much, because I don't have too much, you know, shadow around my mouth. But I am noticing that it's not as full coverage and like even tone as it is on this side. So this side, I'm seeing a little bit of like shadow coming through around my mouth and down here. And then just for like my hyperpigmentation, I am seeing some peeking through. Like if I stretch my skin a little bit, it's kind of hard to see with these lights, but I can see it in person. When I stretch my skin, I can still see like some of those peeking through, especially this bigger one peeking through. Whereas on this side with the light shining directly on it, I see nothing. I literally see no peeking through, and I had a really bad one here. None of that's peeking through. That is what I mean by color correction can make your foundation look like it has way more coverage than it naturally does. And sometimes people think they need full coverage foundations, when really, if you got a corrector first, you can get away with the medium coverage. A lot of people would think that with my skin concerns and the hyperpigmentation that I have, that I would be wearing like super full coverage foundations all the time. And even though medium to full is a preference for me, I don't have to do that, because I understand the concept of color correction, and it's just so vital to keeping the skin looking like skin, but everything is polished, everything is one tone, and everything is balanced so that I can build properly on this canvas. So I want you to keep that in mind when it comes to color correction. And this goes for whether you're using a green, an olive, a yellow, all the other color correctors that I mentioned. This is really important for that. If you're someone that struggles with color corrector and you find that you are someone that gets it mixed in, try taking a super rich color corrector like this and mixing it in with a flesh tone concealer, like one that would be your skin tone, one that you use for brightening. Mix it in so you're kind of diluting the pigment a little bit more, and then put that on, because then you won't have to work so hard to cover the pigment, because you've already, you know, dulled it down some. So I'm gonna continue back in with the rest of this video, and I will be right back. So now you see, now that I've color corrected on this side as well, now we got the same thing going on. So it can be achieved underneath foundation, which I personally prefer, or on top of foundation. Like say you put on your foundation and maybe you don't have a whole lot of like discoloration going on. You just kind of want to pinpoint what's peeking through. You can do it on top and get this effect as well, so that they're both even. Okay, so now that we saw like what that gave us, you guys saw this side was the one that I corrected with before, and you saw that I used 3 different types just to, you know, explain what those different variations of correctors for darkness mean. You saw that I used that light one for the ones that weren't so dark or for lighter skin. That orange one is more so one that I would use on my skin for like every day. And then that red one I would use either on deeper skin or when I have a deeper mark on my face. So I just wanted to pretty much explain how all of those work together to kind of give me that even tone. And you saw me set it with that sheer brown powder, and then I already like neutralized everything and kind of took it to the next level. So once I put my foundation on, I was getting coverage immediately, even though I wasn't putting as much foundation on, almost as much as this side, but I wasn't getting the same result. And now that I've completed my whole face, you guys see where that took me. Like, you guys see my bare skin, you know the issues that I have with my skin, and you see the coverage that I have now with that medium coverage foundation. This is a medium coverage foundation. Do you understand now why color corrector is so important? So I hope this video was crucial to your makeup routine. I hope some bells went off, and I thank you so much for supporting this channel, and I want you to stay tuned for more videos in the future. Again, if you haven't checked out my previous video, it's about tools. It's about everything you need to know about tools in order to complete like the look that you're going for your preference. And also if you're an artist, what you need to complete a look on your client. So I would recommend that you take a look at those. They're a great prerequisite to this video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any questions about anything that I've mentioned today, as far as like product recommendation, what to use, maybe what you already have may be a color corrector, you may not know. Be sure to leave that information below, and I will fill out everything that I mentioned today in the description box. So stay tuned, and thank you so much.